Hello, good evening, and welcome. My name is Mike Moritz, and the name of this presentation is Ranking the Songs of the Eurovision Song Contest 1974, open brackets, an opinionated guide, close brackets. You may think that I'm doing this one because, it's the famous one, with ABBA winning, and, in a way, yes. I had been planning on doing 1974 earlier rather than later, if only because I'm not a huge ABBA fan and I just wanted to get it out of the way. But what really made me want to do 74 was the recent passing of Marinella, who was the first person to represent Greece at the contest. It seemed a nice way to commemorate an important figure in the contest's history and also discuss two other big titans of music in the 70s and 80s, that being ABBA, the Swedish act this year, and Olivia Newton-John, who appeared for the United Kingdom years before Greece made her a household name. It was only after I decided to add 74 to the queue that I realized the issue. What if I hated Marinella's song? It wouldn't be the first time. For every Alcohol is Free or Last Dance, Greece has sent a Utopian Land or a Watch My Dance. So with great trepidation I dialed up the 1974 contest and I had a lot of fun. I liked it more than 56 and 65, though there is still a lot of Schlager nonsense in there. But the big questions that I would like you to have in your mind as we go through tonight's episode is, will my dislike of ABBA prevent me from giving them the 12 points that they obviously deserve? And two, will I actually like Greece's song? There's only one way to find out. This video will consist of all 17 songs from the 1974 Eurovision Song Contest ranked relative to the other songs in that contest, from my least favourite to my most favourite. The rankings are based on how much I generally want to listen to a song or recommend that you listen to the song. This can be influenced by things like my genre preference, the quality of the music, the quality of the songwriting, and stage performance. A bad song that is interesting will generally rank higher than a technically proficient song that I find boring. The top 10 will all get points as per the traditional 12, 10, and then 8 through 1 system, even though they don't use that scoring system in 1974. This allows me to track country trends over the history of the contest and also discreetly through decades. You'll see what I mean at the end. Alright, that's the business done. Now for the pleasure. Fetch your bucket and spade. It's the Eurovision Song Contest, Brighton, 1974. Number 17. Monaco. Oh god, I've got to read this out. Celui qui reste, celui qui s'en va. It's easier if I try and think of the melody. By Romuald, from Monaco. Now this is the second contest I've reviewed featuring a Monegasque song, and I hope they aren't all like this. It's a sample size of 2, so we're going to hold out here. I at least like the music of this one more than 1965's. It's stronger, it's more dynamic, it's got a real punch the air feel to it. As I said, I've got the hook in my head. It's just a shame about the lyrics. It starts off fairly universal, when a relationship ends, there's one on the floor, one out the door, a little safe for a breakup ballad, but it sounds triumphant, so it's not completely dire. But then we play the pronoun game and he drops in a he, and it becomes clear that he is the one on the floor. He's the one complaining that she has someone to move on to, and she's the one standing tall. And I'm like, for crying out loud, man the hell up. Like, last episode, I had Nije Ljubavstva from Serbia. That is a song that outright described a breakup as a wrecked ship. But he stood his ground. You hurt me, but the love I gave you will stick with you forever. And the love I have is something that you cannot take from me. It's a deep and profound sentiment. And here, Romuald, he's whining into his applesauce. She has a new man and I'm never going to be loved ever again. Like, dude, if this is your attitude, no wonder she's leaving you. Pick your Lego up off the floor and grow the hell up. Number 16. The United Kingdom. Long Live Love by Olivia Newton-John. Now, friends, people talk about the Eurovision Song Contest being politicized, but this ignores the true insidious influence of the Song Contest, which is, of course, that it is being subverted to become a propaganda wing of the Salvation Army. Now, you laugh, but I can count no less than 2 songs with the Salvation Army connections. This one and Switzerland 2013, which is weird that it's happened twice. You know, I was first disappointed when I heard this, and then confused, and then baffled, and now I'm just sort of quietly perplexed. Disappointed because this is the kind of narrative pop that makes 1974 infamously one of the worst years in popular music. Like, I can imagine Paper Lace singing this. They did the night that Chicago died. And then I was confused because she's singing about the Sally Annie Band. And I'm like, what's that got to do with the otherwise trite and fundamentally meaningless chorus of Long Live Love? And then I was baffled when I found out that Long Live Love is a Salvation Army slogan. The Sally Annie Band is a nickname. Sally Annie is a nickname for the Salvation Army, which just raises the question of why? Like, maybe it's a cultural touchstone thing, but it just feels so aggressively British. I feel like it's the equivalent of, say, like the Dutch sending a song about Zwarte Piet and being in costume while they did. And then there's the obvious religious stuff, which it just feels odd in Eurovision. Like, Italy isn't sending pontifications about the Latin Mass. Germany isn't sending a rock song, called the 95 Theses. Morocco's song wasn't about the Ummah. Okay, it kind of was, but like those lyrics are written in a kind of secular way that could have easily worked for an episode of Fraggle Rock. Look, this is irrelevant here. Like, culturally speaking, I think that this song, this bit of Salvation Army, I want to say propaganda, it's more odd to me than anything that Georgia has sent. And they gave us 3 minutes to Earth and Lock Me In. It's just perplexing seeing Terpsichore tell us how great the salvos are. Number 15. Germany. Die Sommermelodie by Cindy and Bert. Now, were you hoping that I might go a whole entry without making some niche reference that no one knows? Yeah, no. You ever see that movie, The Apple? Horrible movie. Originally conceived as a Hebrew stage musical incorporating Faust and Genesis, and spearheaded by the Israeli maestros Golan and Globus of the Cannon Group, this is a dire piece of cinema. Bad acting and worse songs. Joss Ackland plays God. Now, the only reason, because I bring it up because Die Sommermelodie, that was horribly off-key, reminds me way too much of the song that Alfie and Bibi, no, really, that is their names, sing at the World Vision Song Contest. No, really, that's what it's called. In 1994. No, really, this is the movie. In that movie, I think it's called Love, the Divine Melody or something like that. It's been a few years since I watched The Apple. It's just hilarious because while it reminds me of that kind of schlock, lyrically, it's about as far from that as you can get, because this song is about, oh, well, love is just a summer melody. It's a delusion and we must part. But, like, I can't help it. This is the kind of horrible schlager that I block out of my mind when I think about Eurovision. And, like, if it feels like I'm talking more about what the song is like rather than what it is, it's because I honestly don't feel like there's much to say about this song. The music is very much forgettable 1974 pop. It's a boring duet with boring lyrics about a boring topic matter. I mean, at least they're not recruiting me for the salvos. Number 14. Luxembourg. It happened, everyone. A Luxembourgish entry outside the top 10. I'm as shocked as you. The pattern is broken, except I realize this song's written by Ralph Siegel. And this doesn't count. That man needs to just not... Ralph Siegel, he needs to just not. I know he wrote Ein bisschen Frieden, but, he also wrote Chain of Lights. He misses more than he hits. At this point, we are still in the sewers of mid-70s garbage pop. Songs with too many words and diabetes-inducing instrumentation, regardless of how sad the lyrics are. Fetch Me My Bowie or Steely Dan. Heck, the Kinks had a good record out in 1974. Save Me, Ray Davies. Alright, fine. The song. Bye bye, I love you. Ba ba da ba ba da ba da 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 da. It feels like almost everything in this contest has this bum ba bum ba bum ba bum oompa like rhythm that just feels endemic of the era. It's everywhere over this blasted contest, and the narrative, because apparently they've all got to have a narrative, is almost a sequel to Die Sommermelodie. Because this is also about a summer romance that is over and they're farewelling. What is with this continent and just banging for the summer? Would a long-term relationship prevent you from painting your houses mission brown and orange and slowly transitioning to colour TV? Number 13. I See a Star by Mouth and McNeil from the Netherlands. This was a favourite. I have to say, this song makes me think we didn't get the grass off the hippies quick enough. Because what the hell? And guess what? It's another Marshall bouncing beat. I see a star. Ba, bum, 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 bum. You can hide it under your crunchy guitars and your calliopes. But no, this is the same thing that we've been played with since the UK. Which is long, long, long live love. Ba, 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 ba. And the whistling. This song's got whistling as well. It's Paper Lace again. Oh, they did Billy, Don't Be a Hero. This era of music is the worst. Not even 1980 popular music is this bad. And actually, while we're on this topic, what is with the Netherlands and barrel organs? Because they've got one here and they've got one in 2010. I actually like that song in 2010. This song sucks. Number 12. Italy. C. Sorry, Italy. I tried. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's very intimate and gentle, romantic, and it really doesn't feel like anything else in the show. I mean that as a compliment. But I just bounce right off of this piece. I tried. I put it on after and after and after each other, but I just didn't connect with this. I mean, at this point, we are out of the songs that I think aren't good, so I'm not slamming Gigliola here. I think the piece is quite beautiful, but I just don't have anything to connect to. I don't feel compelled to discuss the lyrics or the music or anything. I'm just not connecting with anything here. What even would I say? I don't hate it. So vitriol on it seems unearned. All I have is, sounds nice. I'm sorry. I failed you. Number 11. Switzerland. Mein Ruf nach dir. Every time I read this, I get that mistake. Every time. So, Mein Ruf nach dir is not a better song than C. By any metric. But this one at least gives me something to think about. I'm a little unsure of the narrative here. My understanding is that they broke up and she's calling out with love and wants their love to bloom again. I think that's it. Honestly, that I'm unsure what it's about should be damnation enough. The music has a little more soaring energy than the entries I've mentioned before. It makes it a pleasant listen for me. More pleasant than C. I may not feel what she's singing, but I feel that she feels it. And already, we're at the point. 1 point. It goes to Portugal. Another one that ends up in the middle of the list, just by virtue of being It's not that this one is bad. It's a pleasant listen. The arrangement is well done, with a bit more brass than I'd expect for a mid-tempo ballad like this. It zhuzhes it up nicely, but I just don't sync up with it. I don't feel any of the listlessness that the song purports to be about. And before you drop in the comments and comment about, its importance to Portuguese history, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. that's irrelevant to my liking as a song, and Eurovision isn't political anyway. They do apparently endorse the Salvation Army, though. 2 points go to Island for Cross Your Heart by Tina Reynolds. This one's not quite in the good stuff yet, but we are in the entertaining messes section. So this one is another inoffensive, upbeat pop song about love with the like rhythm that is apparently all over these freaking songs. But it has the upside of the utterly baffling choice to have the hook be cross your heart and hope to die. Like, I am at a loss for words as to how to describe my reaction to hearing Eurovision, balls deep in inoffensive Schlager, have a joyous, bouncy song sing Hope to Die. Like, Norway 2017 got a bit of pushback for talking about killing negative thoughts and using the K word. Like, but here, decades before, we have a pop song saying, Hope to Die! Not the most baffling lyrical choice this year, though. Hold up for that one. Honourable mention, a proposed act from France. We've got a rare one here today, an officially released and selected song that wasn't on the show. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. There are actually two for this year. Malta was supposed to enter, but when I tried to find the Maltese entry, the song I found credited as the selected entry sounded way too modern to be 1974, so I thought it might be like a more recent recording, like from the 80s or something, of that song. I was unable to get confirmation that the song that I was listening to was the actual proposed entry for Malta at the time. But France, on the other hand, has a whole promo video, and Danny was in attendance on the day, and the only reason they didn't compete was out of respect for the passing of the French President Pompidou. So it's a shame, because I would have loved to hear what Life at 25 sounded like with the full orchestra. It really would have livened up this show. I think musically it's more interesting than some of the more blunt force Schlager mess that we've discussed. The melody's really catchy, and it has some really wonderful French rhymes. Like the la la la's, have a bit of a target on it, but I like its rhythm. And Denny's performance of it, at least on the studio version, is warm and not really like anything else that we see in the show. I do think that we lost something by not seeing it fully translated to the stage. Oh, one other thing. If you do go to listen to this on Spotify, the version that's on Spotify is one that Denny recorded later. So it doesn't sound the same. You've got to check the promo video. Anyway, 3 points go to Norway. let's let's not bury the lead here. She says final solution in a love song. I couldn't believe it. The first time I'm listening to this, I had to pause it and be like, did she just say that? And yeah, I quote, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the second verse. In our song, The Final Solution, we have used the words on the wall, awaiting the love revolution, we all know the curtain will fall. There's a lot of mixed metaphors going on there, and knowing that passage is nowhere in the original Norwegian lyrics, I have no idea how this happened. It is hilarious, though. An otherwise forgettable bit of soul shuffle that sounds like, honestly, like a game show theme, is elevated into my long-term memory by the most tone-deaf anglicization I've heard in Eurovision. There have been bad English lyrics before, but none of them meet the depths of trying to reclaim a Nazi slogan. It's not even 30 years out from the end of the war here, and that alone rises it to position 8, as far as I can go before the stuff I actually enjoy. Now, from here, we have reached the stuff where I will choose just to put this on and just listen to this as music, not just to review it. And our first entry in this section is 4 points going to Yugoslavia for Generation 42. Now, after 1965, I'm wondering if Yugoslavia is just going to turn into the country to watch in these pre-90s Eurovisions, bringing music that is divorced from the standard Western pop conventions, or maybe I've just picked like two good contests for them to review. Now, this song, which I've seen credited both as My Generation, or Moja Generacja, and Generation 42, reminds me a lot of mid to late 60s rock, as heavy metal was starting to codify, but hadn't really split away from blues rock at the time. Like, I can imagine, say, Iron Butterfly playing this if Iron Butterfly were better. Like, the ominous soundscapes, the organ effect on I guess it's an electric piano, the lyrics evoking wartime angst and simultaneous nostalgia. This all feels very that kind of like late 60s early metal to me. And considering that this is Eurovision, being 7 years behind the times is basically current. I love this piece. The idea of being married with kids and wondering where all your friends from like the war-ravaged 40s are, if they're alive at all, that's a great idea. Like, this is the stuff people are thinking of when they say, oh, Eurovision's not political. You know, it's like, this isn't passing a judgment on the war. It's just asking how people today feel in the shadow of things that have come before. And musically, I think that comes out as like a little melancholy, a little dark, but also a little triumphant. Like, I don't think anyone other than Yugoslavia would have the balls to send this song to the contest, and I am overjoyed that they did. 5 points go to Belgium. Belgium bringing the whiplash, as I trust them to do. And always, what do I do with this? It's a bright symphonic pop piece, unlike anything else I can think of from 1974. Not just in the contest, just in 74. Like, chamber pop is, I guess, what I'm thinking of. But I can't think of anything from the end of the 60s to its revival in the 90s that sounds this lush and this genre. Like, Philly Soul was lush, but this is definitely more Baroque pop than anything coming out of Philly. Like, I love it when Belgium brings me something that I enjoy, but it hurts me when I try and analyze it. Like, look at these lyrics. Like, there's a princess of the wind living in a palace of glass and cement where trees are the enemy. Okay, pretty obviously pining for the summer of love and a hippie movement, but like the first verse, it's about an old guy who wasn't a guy, and maybe he was a ghost, or maybe he's Jesus, and that's why we need hippies. This is just flashing me back to the apple again. Like, thematically, I understand that it is an appeal to the hope of the late 60s. I don't know what Belgium was like in the mid-70s, but like, why phrase it this way? Why is she a princess of the wind? Is this a Nausicaa prequel? An honourable mention, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the interval act is, in recent years, either a catchy tribute to the history of the contest or a showcase of the hosting country and its talent. In 65, we had Mario, who I wished was telling us about how great the Grand Prix track was. In 2012, an oligarch barely mustered up a smile while he smashed out a pop banger. So imagine my surprise when I found out that 1974 had the freaking Wombles. I can't even with this. When I think about how the UK looks down on Eurovision and I see them doing this when they're hosting, can you blame them? It's a kids' show. Now, you might say, this is like Finland hosting and the halftime being the Moomins, or Australia hosting and the halftime being Bluey. But no, this is like Switzerland hosting and the halftime act being Pingu. Pingu's Swiss, by the way. All right, so it's baffling, right? But you're probably asking, Mike, if it's so baffling, why is it here between 5 and 6? Well, one, because it's so stupid that it's amazing. And two, it's Mike freaking Bad. Now, I had not thought about the Wombles since I was a literal child. It had never occurred to me who wrote the Wombles theme. But the moment that I heard that voice as the Wombles bashed around Brighton, as human-sized costumes of the Wombles, because they're actually really small, bashed around Brighton, I recognized that voice from the end of every single episode of The Dreamstone. And no one should watch The Dreamstone, but Better Than a Dream is an amazing song. And then, as I'm doing research for this, I find out he wrote Bright Eyes? Like the Art Garfunkel song from Watership Down? Hell of a song. Amazing song. By the way, watch Watership Down. It's a great movie. Not for kids. It's like adult. Parent supervision. Anyway. So this absolute novelty. Watching these oversized, man-shaped costumes of the Wombles while a mashup of two of the Womble singles play. It's not just the Wombles theme, it's Remember You're a Womble as well. It's such a tonal whiplash from everything we've seen in this show that it just like buffer overflows and loops back around to being amazing in its stupidity. Is it good television? No. Was I entertained? Yes. 6 points go to Spain. I love how aggressively Spanish this is. There's this way that Spanish guitar players hold their guitars that just bring me joy, whipping it around and then looking like they could drop it at any moment, but they always have full control over their instrument. Combine this with the fact that he's like stuffed his mic down his shirt because the mic in front of him is for the guitar, which he's playing live. This is just charming. And the piece is just so joyful. Like, sing and be happy. Like with that guitar really driving the piece, the bright brass section pumping up the energy, and the hand claps and those big backing vocals. I think this might be the most Spanish song I've heard at Eurovision. 7 points go to Finland. This was the first song on the card, and let me tell you, I had to fight off the hope that this filled me with. This warm, peppy, romantic, slightly intimate piece was a great kickoff, but good starts have led to mediocre middles, as I learned in 1965. Now, the lyrics are a little clumsy, but Carita sings them well, and the orchestra is lush and inviting. But something sat wrong with me. Because when she comes on stage, the intro has the title in Finnish, as well as English. And the song is all English lyrics. So I did something that I didn't do for any other entry, which is I tracked down the national final. And yes, it's in Finnish. And oh my god, it's so much better. Like, I don't know if the orchestra just understands the material better, or if like the conducting is better, or like they change the arrangement, but it just sounds so much better. And like Carita doesn't have like the odd emphasis on certain words she does when she's singing in English. Like, if they'd sent this version, it would have still been fourth for me, but like a higher fourth. Like, I love this song either way. 8 points go to Israel. Okay, lots to unpack here. First, in the show, the band is credited as Pugi, but if you search them up, you'll find them as Cavaret, and I think I've misspelled it. I can't remember if it's Cavaret with 2 A's or 2 E's. I think it's 2 A's, but it might be 2 E's. Anyway, apparently the name when they weren't touring abroad was Pugi, but on Spotify, they're Cavaret. So I'm crediting them under both names here. All right, so let's bring out the old chestnut here. Let us read from the lyrics. One says that the sky is running out for him. There is air, and there is enough air for a nation or two. Maybe we'll get along after all. Please, everyone tell me how Eurovision has gotten political. And remember that these lyrics are coming from Israel. Anyway, let's move on and discuss the actual song, which hits me in a similar way to Yugoslavia, in that the intro doesn't kind of seem to fit with the music of the main song, and it really took me a while to warm up to the vibes. When I did my first impressions, I think I had this around about 6, but as I've listened to it more, it's definitely risen up to 3. Like many other songs this year, it's got a real bounce to it. It's similar to the rhythm that apparently is just the sound of 1974, but it's not as obvious, and it's kind of buried under those multi-part harmonies. Like the lower brass could ruin it, but it is used sparingly. And I love the way that this makes Hebrew sound. And I say that as someone who's listening to She Looked Me in the Eye, which they claim is an English version of this song, but no, it is a different song with the same music. Like the poetry that is on display in the lyrics of this song are not on show in She Looked Me in the Eye. The only thing that I can think of when listening to this song, whose name I am not going to pretend even try to pronounce, but it is such a long way from this to Do You Want to See Me Dance? 10 points. Go to Sweden. Okay, hear me out. Yes, it is a classic. Yes, it rewrote the history of the contest and paved the way for Sweden to become the face of pop music in the West. No Waterloo, no Max Martin and his tentacle-like influence over Western pop over the last 30 years. Waterloo is a classic pop song with solid rock energy, thumping bass, pounding piano, and a great guitar line. And yes, Frida and Agneta are icons in 70s pop, and rightly so. But it is the same problem that I have with the 2024 contest. The, in my opinion, objectively, quotation marks, best song does not make me happy. Waterloo is a song about defeat. She's been pursued and browbeaten down, finally accepting life with this vanilla latte sipping nice guy. It gives me too many flashbacks to France 1965 with his ethos of seed doubt to reap love. And yeah, like, okay, they do say, I feel like I win when I lose, but, applying this could be a little bit of, consensual non-consent. But one, this is 1974 and I'm not necessarily sure that CNC was a thing, but 2, the key word is lose. The thought that we end on is lose. I lose. This is putting a happy face on over emotional turmoil. And hey, ABBA were great at that. Have you ever listened to Dancing Queen as a song about someone pining that their days of youth and beauty are gone? No? A little bit? Okay. Look, this song is a classic and actually way rockier than I remember it being. But like how in 2024, I ranked the euphoria of No Rules over the urban anxiety of Rim Tim. In 1974, the ambiguity and resignedness of Waterloo is beaten out, with 12 points going to the absolute joy of Greece. At the start of the show, I posed a question. What if I hated Marinella's song? The opening bouzouki made me a little hopeful, but when it burst into that main melody, I knew it would shoot to the top of the rankings. This is a song of joy. La 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 la. Sorry, that's not even in my script. I just jumped out with it. It doesn't turn around and say that pain and suffering do not exist, nor does it want to sleep through the bad times, Latvia 2023. Just for now, we can be happy. I have a bit of wine, I have the sea, and my boyfriend. That's such a nice sentiment. Enjoy the small pleasures. She doesn't even need a lot. There's a degree of personal modesty here. It's not that she has a bit of wine, a bit of sea, and a bit of crumpet. It's that having a bit is enough. And it's not all that I need to be satisfied. It's that having this makes me happy. And I'll also point out that this reminds me of another Greek entry that's very dear to my heart, which is Alcohol is Free from 2013. Another piece of ethnic pop, ska in that case, about getting turned on the Aegean, because life can get a bit too real at times. I mean, Marinella is arguably more peaceful in her enjoyment of life than the 2013 entry, but the combination of sea, booze, and companionship is a nice through line. No joke, this is one of the finest entries that I've heard from Greece. And the relief that what I intended as a memorial to the first Greek entry ended up being glowing adoration just makes my choice to review 1974 all the more worth it. I'm honestly tearing up as I'm reading this. I was fully prepared to give Sweden my 12 points and move on, but the utter joy and boundless energy of this one, a song not wanting the world but happily taking only what you need, a bit of wine, a bit of sea, and a bit of arse, I guess, to make you endlessly happy. Marinella, 12 points. And that, my friends, is our list. Please don't hate me because I placed Waterloo second. Waterloo is a banger, but I love songs that make me happy. Let's have a run through the stats to close out the episode. Being the first show from the 70s, there's not much to discuss regarding the points, and also the songs. Though I do look forward to whatever the Monegasque entry that earns points with me is going to be. Maybe they can wheel out Mario to discuss his many bank accounts. The real interesting stuff is what happens when we look at the top 26 contests of the songs, the top 26 songs of the contests that I've reviewed. And Greece, with Wine, the Sea, and my boyfriend, Krasi Thalassa Ketogorimu, I can't say it well, slides into 6th place between Nie Lubav Zwa and Never Forget. I love 2012, and I did not expect a block splice this soon, but Marinella's song really is that good. And if you're wondering where Waterloo is on this list, it's not. Like, I would still rather listen to Jedward, but only Waterline. Like, Waterloo is better than Lipstick. Now, what's really interesting is if we only show the best songs of each country, because of course we've got 2 Czech entries here, we've got some Croatian entries, we've got double ups, we've got 3 Finnish entries. If we only go 1 from each country, Israel is on the board. I really like that song. It's not enough to surpass Calliope's Pipes, but it beats like anything that, say, France has brought to the contest that I've reviewed, which raises the question, how does this affect my running points of the contests that I have reviewed? Well, Keep Me Warm solidly brings Finland into the lead with 39 points. Luxembourg in second with 35, and Austria with 26 respectively. Germany's Sommer Melody does little to impress, with Sweden pulling in for a tied 5th place with 18 points. Spain behind with 17, thanks to the, the Catalanian, I guess you'd call it a rumba. Ireland raising into 9th place there with 14 points, tying with Greece. Greece, of course, getting the 12 points from this, and 2 points from Victor Vernikos in 2023, which is an odd little pairing there. Yugoslavia's 4 points raised them into 19th position, both on 8th points with Israel, and Belgium now with 7, tying with Poland and Estonia, but Belgium has scrambled that together from multiple entries, whereas Poland and Estonia only get their 7 points from one entry apiece. And the list closes up with Montenegro, Azerbaijan, and Lithuania, none of which exist at the at the time this contest takes place. We shift through to the Australian rankings, which haven't changed. This slide is more or less irrelevant. Look, 2026 is coming. Delta will be on the board soon. It'll be fine. All right, and lastly, my bottom 10 songs have not changed. Look, as much as I didn't like the whiny tone of Monaco's lyrics, it has a solid melody and I can hum along to it more than the grinding of, Estonians' entry with the stupidly long name They Are Not Mad Drugs Officer. And that is Brighton 1974. All in all, a pretty decent little contest. 4 or 5 songs that I can see myself going back to listen to. Pretty good for a smaller contest. The problem is, what next? I had hoped to roll straight into 2026, but it turns out my hyperfiction just kind of lays it in on this, and I've got another week. So I guess I should continue my grand tour of the decades? Okay, so we've done 50, we've done the 50s, we've done the 60s. We've got the 20s coming. Last episode was the 10s, and this is the 70s. Let's go halfway. Let's go to the 90s. The question is, which 90s contest do we look at? Well, I did the thing that every good person does when they have questions. I went to Reddit. And that got me some good recommendations that I'll use later. But a couple of people told me that 1995 is really strong and peak. So I'll take your word for it. Next episode, 1995. A contest that I know nothing about. I guess Norway wins? Because I know that 1996 is the year that Morten from AHA hosts. So I'm guessing Norway wins. But I have no idea what song Norway sent in the 90s. I didn't even know that Norway won in the 90s. Sure. Until then, my name's Mike Moritz. Good night and take care.